Hello, you Awaken Wonders, and thanks for joining me for Stay Free with Russell Brand as we talk about freedom, electoral and representative democracy. Hey, Sherry, back in the locals chat. Yes, you did hear Manny doing the countdown. Tracker Hershey, yes. Hot mic, hot mic, hot mic. Hello, Awaken Wonders. Blessed old bird, true chimera. Hello, 95 Audrey in the Rumble chat. I am in the United States, still in Atlanta. Hope you are having a beautiful and glorious day as we continue to recognize that there's some odd games being played currently. When there's a domestic crisis in the USA, what support is available through FEMA to support the victims of those crises? When there is a war in Europe, who is the war being fought for? Is it a humanitarian war or is it a corporate war? These are some of the questions we'll be addressing over the course of the next hour. If you're watching us on YouTube, we'll be there for about 15 minutes. Then we'll be exclusively available on that sweet stream of freedom that we call Rumble. We'll have a couple of messages from our partners, remember, of course. That's got to keep the lights on, baby. But we make this show for you. If you're an Awaken Wonder, stay tuned for some exciting changes that we'll be making from the week of October the 11th. A brand new take. And I can't tell you what it is, but I can tell you that our first guest is going to be Tucker Carlson in conversation like you have never, ever seen him before, talking about subjects you've never seen Tucker Carlson talking about before. So become an Awaken Wonder now to enjoy your final week of Bible study, meditations, questions and answers, and Russell Brand's stand-up breakdown. We just talked about Lenny Bruce. That was complicated. The man was pretty profligate with the use of the N-word, which I must say, even through the filter of Dustin Hoffman, was difficult. So remember, become an Awakened Wonder now. Why don't you post in the comments in the chat how you become an Awakened Wonder? Let's have a look at that. And from next week, we'll be preparing for that great transition, as they say. I sometimes look at my own face and say, is it a cruel fire of aggression? And with my mic up still, yeah, we're cool with that. Vance is the first White House wannabe to wear facial hair in 80 years. Research indicates that voters see beards as aggressive. Surely not. What about Father Christmas? What about old Saint Nick? Think of next you'll be saying you don't like Fidel Castro's beard. And for extra points and for one free Awakened Wonder membership, tell me, has he got a secret son, that Fidel Castro? Let me know in the chat. Okay, so it's a sacred day in many respects. Yes, I'm not talking about the liturgical or ecclesiastical calendar. I'm letting you know that today is 3 years since this wonderful moment of television.
Thank you to all of our partners. Oh my God, it's just such an unbelievable moment.
Brandon, you also told me, as you can hear the chants from the crowd, let's go, Brandon. Brandon, you told me you were going to kind of hang back.
That's what they're saying. Let's go. Think of that. Might as well be a million years ago now, mightn't it? That might as well be footage, sepia footage from the French Connection. That might as well be Harvey Milk. That might as well be Martin Luther King addressing the Million Man March, mightn't it? Like that's 3 years ago. Joe Biden, do you remember him? No. Well, neither does he. It's extraordinary to let's look at the priorities of the current administration. Here's CNN questioning the pronunciation of Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. I do like to say people's names correctly, just as a matter of politeness, actually. But is it as important as the other subject that is being discussed? Let's have a look.
You know what I can say, Jim? I can say that 13,099 murderers were let into this country, 16,000 rapists, 425,000 people in the last 4 years.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
People in the last 4 years have been let into this country by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's own Customs and Border Protection that are running
Corey,
around this country, Jim.
The other thing, too, is Kamala Harris.
Crimes.
I don't know. Why do you guys say Kamala? That is, it's Kamala Harris.
Jim, we know that they're committing crimes against America.
That is pretty funny. Kamala Harris. I'd be Kamala Harris. Was it 500 rapists, 2,000 murderers? Kamala Harris. Focus on what's important in the world. I suppose, yeah, the reason that's enjoyable is because it shows what the priorities are. And priorities is going to be a big theme of today's stream. All of you watching us in Rumble, all of you watching us in Locals, those of you that are still with us on YouTube, remember to turn on the notification bell if you're watching this on YouTube, because the algorithm will direct you towards corporate media. Of course, it has to do that. They believe they're doing the right thing. They believe they're doing the right thing when they're protecting you from hate speech, as they would call it. They believe they're doing the right thing when they paste over your mind and shellac your consciousness with false narratives. They believe they're helping you. That's what's extraordinary about it. Okay, let's have a look at again, this is a story that's ultimately about branding. Chris Cuomo, and again, I'm not sure I'm saying his name right, he's talking about Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, and what seemed like rumours that he assaulted his partner. I don't know if they're rumours or I don't know if it's been proven, because I've not watched this yet. And aren't there rumours as well that he maybe impregnated a nanny? Is that true? That's just, I'm not making the claim that that is true. It's simply something that I think people have been discussing. And also what's going on in my country with Keir Starmer. All these kind of like odd puritanical moral arbiters have got jangling closets, baby. Dem bones, dem bones, dem. Let's have a look at what Chris Cuomo is saying about Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff.
If the name were Trump instead of Emhoff, it would be all over the news. Daily Mail, echoed by the New York Post, has a story. Doug Emhoff, Kamala Harris's husband, accused of striking a woman he was on a date with at the Cannes Film Festival back in 2012. They had been drinking, and he didn't like how she talked to the valet. He smacked her. She smacked him back.
You do not get very often.
You do not talk to a valet in Cannes like that!
Very often people coming forward named, and the reason is they're worried about retaliation. These are very powerful people we're talking about. 3 friends all saying they were told the same thing, 2 of them contemporaneously. This woman, Jane, we're calling her, she called one of the friends immediately after the incident. That's what this friend told me.
Ordinarily, I don't care about these stories. You could say, well, there may have been an assault. Well, she didn't go to the police. He's not really running. But again, if it were Trump or anyone related to him, it would be on every TV show that is on right now.
Media branding and media bias. Which stories are you told and which stories are you not told? What happens when you have vague laws about subjects like hate speech and free speech? If you have vague laws, you can decide which cases you want to prosecute and persecute. That is the nature of lawfare. You would have seen Julian Assange the other day saying that laws were reliable things, almost instantiations of a universal principle. But what Assange said he realised is that they're just pieces of paper that can be used to control the reality in the manner that you want to control reality. Media controls the information sphere. Law controls who can be curtailed, contained, incarcerated, or even killed. Let me know in the comments and chat. Graphic. Let me know in the comments and chat if you agree with that, baby. Okay, this is interesting because Jen Psaki has been using Doug Emhoff as a kind of avatar for new masculinity. Before we have a look at that, here's a message from one of our partners. Have a look. It feels like the world's on edge right now, doesn't it? It's crazy. There's tensions over the upcoming election. How will it go? Economic insanity and instability, health threats popping up all over the gaff. With talk of a new pandemic on the horizon, you've got to take action for your family and be prepared. The wellness company's contagion emergency kit is exactly the way to do it. It's a lifesaver. It's put together by real experts like guest on the show, Dr. Peter McCulloch. He's one of the first people to speak out during the pandemic. You can trust him. This kit's got medicines in it like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. It's got budesonide in it and a nebulizer, critical to treat respiratory illnesses, especially now that we're heading into flu season. Don't let anyone play the gatekeeper with your health. Take responsibility for it. Within a few clicks, a kit can be delivered to your door. Peace of mind for the family in the event that something does happen. Got my kit. I'm in America. I'm fully kitted up. You can get yours. Go to twc.health/brand and use the code brand to get $30 off right now and free shipping. That's twc.health/brand. Use the code brand for $30 off and free shipping. Don't wait for the next crisis to hit. Be prepared. Get your kit today and take control. and you are sophisticated enough to understand what the relationship is between a platform and a paid and monetized partner, and of course that is the relationship between us and all of our partners, we do try our best to endorse products that I believe would be of some value in your life, and having access to those kind of effective medicines I believe is an advantage. We're posting in the chat right now links to those products. Be sure and use our code to take advantage of them. Now, one of the things that's very important and I believe worth contemplating further is the aspects of reality that are highlighted and the aspects of reality that are concealed. Now, Doug Emhoff, as Chris Cuomo just said then, he's only someone's boyfriend, isn't he, or husband, or whatever it is. I don't know what his relationship to Kamala Harris is. Frankly, could struggle to care less. But what's interesting is to see the legacy media put forward the idea that he's an example of new and emergent masculinity. Firstly, by their own rubric, there oughtn't be a restrictive idea of what a man is, because they would say that you're a man if you say you are one. So that should be a spectrum that includes incredibly masculine men. Think of a cliched truck driver, snarling and covered in stubble, or a man like me, potent, powerful, glorious. But hey, look at me, I've got long hair and I'm wearing what you'd have to ultimately call a blouse. Then, by their analysis, it should include all types of men. But surely there's a certain moral standard, no matter of how you present, that we ought all be held to. The way we treat others. What our conduct is like when we don't believe we're being looked at. With all of these stories about the corruption and cruelty within Hollywood and all of the exploitation there, that doesn't seem to be based on a lapse of morals, but the institution of immoral behaviour. I think it's significant that Jen Psaki said this. Let's have a look at Jen Psaki's claim that Doug Emhoff is reshaping the perception of masculinity, which is sort of an incredible claim to actually make about anyone. I mean, who would just say that about actually? Like, Jesus, you've reshaped my perception of what it is to be a man. That's an incredible claim.
An interesting part of how people have talked about your role here is how your role has reshaped the perception of masculinity. And I'm not sure you planned on that, but you are an incredibly supportive spouse.
Yep, you've reshaped masculinity. Before I met Doug Emhoff, I had all these images of a man, especially when they're like weird questions about sort of moral conduct, and now the story that we just see Chris Cuomo produced. So you see how that shows a lack of virtue and morality at the heart of their argument. If Doug Emhoff went out with, Ivanka Trump instead of Kamala Harris, they'd say, this guy is a wife-beaten, nanny-impregnating, weird, weak, milksop, spineless, hiding, cowering behind his woman, intimidated by her, saying, oh, he's going to have Kamala Harris now. He is reshaping our perception of what a penis even is. I used to think it was just for ejaculate and urine, but now I use it to stir my coffee, and it's all thanks to you, Doug Emhoff.
Incredibly supportive spouse. Has that been an evolution for you, and do you think that's part of the role you might play as first gentleman?
It's funny, I've started to think a lot about this. I've always been like this. My dad was like this, and to me, it's
silly, isn't it? That's a ridiculous burden to place on Doug Emhoff. I'd say, just based on looking at him then, he's like a normal sort of bloke. It's not reshaping my concepts of masculinity at all. My concepts of masculinity must be derived from a higher source than Doug Emhoff, or I might find myself in terrible, terrible, terrible trouble. Now, to a rather more important story. We're going to be talking now about Hurricane Helene and the impact that it has wrought across the south of your nation. And we're going to be talking about the lack of availability of aid and the fact that the hurricane season doesn't appear to have been correctly budgeted for, and contrasting that with this extraordinary reality. 750, is that $1 million? What's this 750? Victims, they're getting $750 per victim, whereas Biden has announced last week a $2.4 billion aid package to Ukraine. Now, we're leaving YouTube now, guys. So let's click that. If you're watching us on YouTube, come on over. Click the link, because we're going to be talking about that story in addition to what seems to be a certainty that corporations have taken more territory in Ukraine than Russia. So who should we be at war with? So stay with us for that story. We're also going to be talking about citizenship and voter ID, as well as discuss. Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining me for a very special edition of Stay Free with Russell Brand. Today, my guest is Matt Walsh. You know Matt Walsh from the Matt Walsh Show on Daily Wire. He made Am I Racist? That's out now. Of course, he made What is a Woman? Some consider him a right-wing provocateur or maybe an alt-right Borat character setting up scenarios in which, by their own unwitting participation, his dupes are exposed. Now, Matt Walsh is also a Christian, so we talk about Christianity as well as racism and the subjects of his film, the history of slavery, DEI, Christianity and guilt. A good number of subjects come up. I would love to know what you guys think of this interesting conversation. Of course, his movie, Am I Racist?, is out now. Thanks for joining us. Let me know what you think. Matt Walsh, thank you so much for joining us today for Stay Free with Russell Brand.
Hey, Russell, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I watch a lot of your content, and I wonder, I suppose that your films have been uniquely successful in this space. First, What is a Woman? It really sort of broke out, I imagine, of the presumed demographic of, say, even Daily Wire, which is a sort of a growing demographic, let's face it, and perhaps did something successfully that had not been achieved up till then, presented arguments that had become taboo in a way that might be appealing to a wider audience. Your new film, Am I Racist?, I understand, is doing the same thing with regard to arguments around race. The dynamics around all of these subjects seem to be shifting radically at the moment. Do you consider your role, Matt, to be to pose questions, to offer conclusions, and let's just start there. What do you consider to be the function of the films?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, is to pose questions, especially the first film we did, What is a Woman, as you mentioned. And I mean, the question's right there in the title. The whole premise of the film is that in the world of gender ideology, there's they really can't answer any questions at all about their ideology, because it's all really quite fundamentally nonsensical. But they can't answer this one basic foundational question, which is, what is a woman? What is a man? So if somebody says identify as a woman, what do they mean by that? What are they identifying as? And they can't answer that question, and so really the whole movie is just me. I ask a lot of other questions, but every interview comes down to that one question with the people that are, and talking to people that are, not just. We talk to some people that are just walking in the street, but we're also talking to the supposed experts in this field, and kind of letting the house of cards fall apart. Now, in the new film, Am I Racist? There's a question in the title, but it's not the same kind of question. It's what is a woman is a question that the gender ideologues don't want to answer. They're afraid of. Am I racist is a question that the racial ideologues, the race baiters and the DEI grifters, they love to answer that question. They're not afraid of telling me that I'm racist. So it's a bit different in that that's kind of the question that starts me on this journey of self-discovery, shall we say, in the film, where I get into the world of anti-racism, race grifting, DEI. And one of the real differences between the two movies is that in What is a Woman, I kind of maintain a skeptical attitude, sort of a blank slate through the whole movie. I don't really have an opinion myself until the very end. In this one, we decided we'd flip it on its head a little bit, in that rather than being skeptical, I'm going to go into this and I'll just believe whatever they tell me. And at least sort of, I'll play as though I'm believing everything they tell me. And we'll go down the rabbit hole. We'll kind of let them guide me. So we talk to the first person. I ask them all the questions. She gives us the answers. Say, well, where do I go next? If I believe it, I'm into it. What do I do next? And she tells me, and then we kind of just follow. We let them drag us on this journey so that we can reveal by the end of it how, where it leads you if you take these ideas seriously.
That's a really interesting device and technique to use to drive you. And as you were describing that, Matt, I thought of the recent viral clip of that guy, I don't know who he is, but he's doing a prank at the DNC where he's saying, oh, it's so great that Kamala is running and I'm a white male, and he sort of jokes about his wife's lover and stuff like that. And the reason that that viral clip seems so plausible is perhaps because all of us sense that the culture is almost trying to generate the mindset that the protagonist in that clip was representing. So you've taken as your mode almost a kind of a Sacha Baron Cohen technique of a savant-like character who takes at face value the perspectives of the antagonists and people that he, or you in this instance, encounter, and see where that would naturally take us. And although you sort of point out that there are distinctions certainly in the questions, and it's brilliant, I suppose, I reckon, to have questions as the inciting incident for your movies, but both the what is a woman, an unanswerable question, and am I racist, a definitively answerable question. Yes, you are a racist, you're racist unless you, or if you have ever, and almost I'm presuming there's no escape from the diagnosis of racist, and that's one of the ideas that you're examining. Both of those areas, it seems to me, are designed or have culturally created conditions where there's a great deal of uncertainty about what constitutes the correct behaviour. And there's also, I think, a real opportunity, rather, for people to be condemned if they don't say the right thing or don't believe the right thing. And I wonder, do you think that both of let's talk about your current film that you're currently promoting, Am I Racist? Do you think that that this method and modality is peaked and that we're going to come out the other side? Or do you think there's further to go with that kind of divisiveness? Because we'll tell you why I'm posing the question that way, because it seems to me that actually, and maybe your film contributed to this, the arguments around gender have altered. For example, Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, for a while, wouldn't answer the question, what is a woman? But, say 6 months ago, now he would say, well, no, if you have this chromosome, that chromosome, then you're the culture has changed a little bit with regard to the issues around your former film. Where do you think we are on that trajectory with the subject of race?
Yeah, well, I think to start with the former film, I think you're exactly right that I've noticed. Well, even in the U.S., for example, there's been big political changes, legislative changes. There are actually laws against mutilating children in I don't know how many states now, but many states. But even more, it's the cultural change. I mean, in What Is a Woman, we did go, we filmed this 3 years ago, and we did go and do kind of man-on-the-street interviews in several cities across the country. And we found at the time that no matter who we were talking to, demographic-wise, old, young, white, black, it didn't matter, most people were terrified to talk about the issue. They were terrified to even admit that they could define the word woman, even though all of them, of course, knew the answer, but they didn't want to answer it. Ask them a question like, should men be allowed in the girls, in the women's room? And most people at that time didn't want to say no, even though we know that their answer is no. Now I think it'd be very different. I think if I went out and did those man on the street interviews in the exact same places again 3-4 years later, I think the vast majority of people that I stop on the street would say, yeah, a woman's an adult human female. No, men don't belong in the women's room. That's ridiculous. So I do think there's been a cultural change. On race, I think that, I don't know if the DEI stuff has peaked. I think it will peak. I think it's reaching a peak. I think one of the things that indicates that it's getting to a peak is the fact that everybody knows the term DEI, and not only do they know it, but it's been branded in a negative light, so that I don't have a study showing this. Maybe they've been done, but I think that if you get 100 people in the room and you say the phrase DEI to them, like 98 of them will have heard of it, and almost all of that 98 will kind of roll their eyes, like they'll have heard of it. It has a negative connotation for them, kind of similar to what's happened with CRT a couple of years before that, where nobody had heard of critical race theory, and then all of a sudden everyone had heard of it, and most people recognized it as a bad thing. And I think a similar thing's happening with DEI. Now, the only problem, of course, is that when we get to the point where DEI is roundly condemned by almost everybody, does it just go away? Does the ideology go away? No, any more than CRT didn't go away. Now they look for a way to rebrand it. They take these same ideas and they look for new packaging. And so you always have to be on the lookout for that. What's the new packaging for these same ideas that these race grifters have really been pushing for decades?
There's nothing wrong with helping vulnerable people, but I suppose you, like me, are cynical as to whether or not helping vulnerable people is really the motivating idea behind many of these initiatives, in a kind of a literal Christian way, if you take the adage, by their fruits shall you know them. These kind of ideas seem to create opposition, division, concern, confusion, and doubt. I wonder, on the subject of race, say if you were to take the easily vilified and frequently condemned cultural group of, like, even if you were to say such a thing as the most extreme MAGA voter existed, like a white male from the South, hunting, maybe been in the military or whatever, like, I might imagine that those people would have quite an easy relationship around the subject of race. If you take people that work in the services, it's accepted and assumed that you're going to work with people that are from diverse racial backgrounds. If you come from the kind of communities that I sense have been from which a lot of MAGA grassroots support are drawn, it's likely that it's necessary for you to form relationships with people from different ethnic and cultural backgrounds, because it just seems that blue collar backgrounds and people from low income, forgive the sort of, you know, the reductiveness of this inquiry, tend to have to live cheek by jowl and have to get along together. So I wonder where the legitimacy, from where the legitimacy of these initiatives is drawn. To give you a very sort of broad sketch, a set of ideas I'd love to hear your thoughts on. When you pass through some normal country town in Britain and see it adorned with rainbow flags, and I bet similar things happen in your country too, you wonder, who is this for? Who is this serving? If we were to approach this, Matt, in good faith, would you say that it's comparable even to seeing the stars and stripes in your nation or Union Jack in mine? Do you think that what's being offered is that if you live under what would be commonly termed the patriarchy, and under a sort of a presumed nationalist rubric, you are having imposed upon you a set of ideas that are somehow marginalising, are somehow repressive, and that there is some requirement for a pushback? I suppose now I'm starting to understand my question is there legitimacy at all to DEI arguments or conversations around gender? Or is there some legitimacy? And if so, what is it? And how could it be brought into the culture in a way that didn't feel so propagandist and exploitative and untrustworthy? From the rest of the show cannot be on YouTube because Matt Walsh and I are going to speak a little more freely now. So click the link in the description and join us over on Rumble. Awakening Wonders, thanks for joining me today for Stay Free with Russel Brand. It's a giddy and extraordinary world that we are living in. Prepare for peculiar times, they tell me. Already you can feel the rising of the tides of chaos as the campaigning reaches a near hysterical level. Outrageous claims are being made. The information space is being controlled. If you're watching this anywhere other than Rumble, will only be available there for the first 15 minutes. YouTube, of course, is a curtailed, controlled and curated space that yields to corporatism because it must, because it has to, because, as George Carlin says, the interests converge. The interests of government and big tech converge at exactly that point. You will notice that it's harder and harder, let me know in the comments and chat if you agree, to find information that's anything other than blind obedience and blind fealty to systems of control and government that seem clearly to be atrophying before our very eyes, running out of ideas. I'm talking about the Democrats' campaign. That's why it's vital that you participate, if you can, in the Rescue the Republic event that's taking place this Sunday. Join me there along with the other merry inhabitants and occupants of that dinghy. Here they are in a little more detail. We will all be participating in this Rescue the Republic event in Washington. Of course, I will also be in Florida, Fort Lauderdale specifically, with Tucker Carlson to participate in one of his events. If you are an awakened wonder, I'm looking at the screen there where I see your comments, you get the opportunity to win pairs of tickets. We've already asked you a question. We asked our locals community yesterday, what was the war that Tucker regrets supporting? And 3 of you answered that question correctly. And you will, of course, be given tickets, as we've already agreed, and administrated. The campaign continues, but even CNN are finding it hard to be supportive when it comes to the Tsar's most difficult issue, the border.
The vice president has a long history, a well-documented history of really being an ally to these immigrant communities. She has 2 chapters in her book, I Say We Fight and We Are Better Than This, where she really makes a robust case for undocumented immigrants. During the Trump administration, she talked about a climate of fear. She dismissed the border wall as ineffective and a waste of resources. And even her guest at the joint session of Congress was a DACA recipient, was a dreamer. And so for her to go down there and characterize herself as tough on the border, to me, it isn't consistent with a lot of the policy positions that she previously has espoused.
Look at them sitting around trying their absolute best to be obedient, to not become cynical, as all around them the deception becomes unveiled. Surely this is a time of revelation. Many of you will have witnessed the ubiquitously available conversation between Kamala Harris and Oprah Winfrey, attended by a panoply, is that what you want to say, of stars. Here she is being asked about border security plans. Hopefully it's a cogent and reliable response.
What would be specific steps to strengthening the border?
So it's a wonderful and important question. My background was as a prosecutor, and I was also the elected attorney general for 2 terms of a border state. So this is not a theoretical issue for me. This is something I've actually worked on. Okay. I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I take very seriously the importance of having a secure border and ensuring the safety of the American people.
I take it pretty seriously as well, and that's why I recommend you unhook your consciousness from these vile machines of toxicity, bad information, bad food, bad ideas. That's why you will love our conversation with Marty Makari, who was so instructive in helping us to understand the degree to which we're being fed bad food almost deliberately in order to facilitate and expedite the necessity for bad medicine. It's a fantastic conversation if you're an Awake and Wonder. That will be available to you already. Thank you for subscribing. We appreciate your support. We love your support. We need your support, particularly as we come into this extraordinary part of the year where MSNBC and the legacy media will go to any lengths to ensure that the framing of a story is favourable to their audience and their overlords' intentions. In this instance, I'm talking about a recent town hall in Michigan, where workers don't seem to care too much about Jan 6. They seem to be refusing to accept the narrative that this was the worst event in human history. Let's have a look.
And talk to me about your level of interest in the criminal charges and so forth.
February 6th?
January 6th.
January 6th. So I remember that day.
Called it February 6th. I didn't even know what day it was.
I know he was the standing president. I'm not familiar with the charges that are being brought against him for that. I'm not following that charge I know there's multiple court cases going on. I'm just not familiar with it.
I mean, that doesn't sound like it's going to be a factor in deciding who to vote for.
No.
Okay, so when I say January 6th, what do you think?
Oh, I just remember seeing it on the news, like all the riots and stuff. Don't really know what it was about or what happened, though.
How did it make you feel when you saw it?
I don't know. I don't really feel any way about it. People showed their emotion, I guess. Probably in the wrong way, but it happened.
That's amazing, isn't it? To watch them almost like extraterrestrial observers on their own planet encounter ordinary people. And it's an indication of how deeply distinct and separate these information communities or ideological communities have become. Like, if you consume the media that the reporter is pushing, you would go, yeah, Jan 6, that's the worst thing that's happened since Pearl Harbor. It's the worst attack since 9/11. People died. It's disgusting. And then if you don't, like, The thing is, with the saturation of all forms of media now, remember when people were astonished that CNN was a 24-hour news channel? I can still remember that. I'm old enough. And now we live in this immersive media environment. The truth is, most people don't care about what's happening on TikTok. Most people don't care about what's happening in mainstream media. Most people care. Would you agree? Let me know in the comments and chat. About our own lives. However much you care about the Diddy case and its salaciousness and how its tendrils appear to reach into every corner of Hollywood and the entertainment industry, exposing it for what it plainly is. Do you care about it as much as like your own kids and your own family and your own ability to feed yourself, or is it just some sort of glistening, glucose-covered, stinking spectacle laying across the surface of your reality? Certainly, based on what we just saw there, people don't care much about it. We just will not think what they want us to think. They want to replace our thoughts. That's what I'm noticing. Here's CNN baffled by the perspective of a potential voter on Donald Trump.
Man, and Donald Trump, he plays golf with Bryson DeChambeau. Yeah. He goes on Theo Vaughn. He talks about Zins. And, you know, Democrats, I'm sorry, like, they haven't had a cool guy candidate in a while. And, like, with all due respect to Tim Walz, like, Tim Walz appeals to a lot of men. He also appeals to that guy, Bruce. Yeah. Jeff's package. He's wearing a futurist female shirt. Yeah. Like, that guy in Madison, Wisconsin is already going to vote Democrat. Yeah. I'm sorry. How do you reach the young men?
Yeah. I wonder how you do. It doesn't seem like further berating the participants in January the 6th or telling people they were crazy to have concerns about vaccines. Think of the numerous anomalies and hypocrisies packed into that. The fact that most people that were vaccine hesitant, weren't Republicans. They were, in fact, if you were to look at various categories, for example, ethnicity, significantly drawn from African Americans or non-white Americans. Think of how the Democratic Party has to sort of tiptoe around that and continually reframe that. Wait a minute, aren't we supposed to be the party that's standing up for minorities and against white supremacy and stuff? And yet we're pushing this idea, this medicine, these mandates, this control, this sense of fear, this necessity of a vaccine program, this necessity for ubiquitous lockdowns, this necessity for citizen management, however it can be augured and promoted. It just doesn't make sense. Here is food activist Alex Clark talking about the vaccine agenda at a recent roundtable event hosted by Ron Johnson. Let's have a look at that agenda.
In 1985, newborn millennials had to follow a schedule of just a handful of vaccines. Today, a child following the recommended vaccine schedule will receive up to 70 shots by the time they turn 18, including 27 before he or she turns 2, and as many as 6 shots in a single visit. Are all these shots producing healthier kids? According to the data, no. Are we allowed to even ask? Also, no.
I'll handle this one. Yes, they are. And you are allowed to ask. Everything's fine. Carry on.
Some parents who've asked too many questions about the recommended vaccine schedule can find themselves reported to Child Protection Services. Or they will get kicked out of their pediatrician's office for not being compliant. This is America, the land of the free. Parents are being held hostage. They did not sign up to co-parent with the government. We want a divorce.
Good speech, good punchline. Divorce, people love that kind of thing. Also, I like watching the unfolding of the slow pressure of a standing ovation. You know, if you're out at an event and like someone near you does a standing ovation, we're doing a standing ovation. By the end, even the people participating in the round table, Bobby Kennedy, it looks like we're doing a standing ovation. Got to do a standing ovation. But, you know, it does warrant one. I don't remember inviting the state to intervene when it comes to matters tending to my family regarding my intellectual and ideological perspective. The state seems pretty determined to replace God while telling you that there is no such thing as God, or at least when it's convenient to tell you that. Certainly it seems like a pretty godless way to run a country and indeed a planet. You know we can't continue to provide this content without the participation of our partners and sponsors. Here's a message from one of them now. Senolytics are the biggest discovery for promoting healthy aging. The aging process obviously isn't our friend, unless I suppose, you know, there's eternal life. But while we're here, we want to be energetic and productive. That's why I use Qualia Senolytic with science-backed ingredients that have helped me feel, I would say, 15 years younger in a matter of just months. Everyone accumulates senescent cells, known as zombie cells. These senescent cells are old and worn out and not fulfilling a useful function for our health, but they take up space and nutrients from our healthy cells. Qualia Senolytic removes zombie cells and allow healthy cells to thrive. Resist aging at the cellular level. Try Qualia Senolytic. Go to QUALIA-life.com/brand for up to, get this, 50% off, and use the code BRAND at the checkout for an additional 15% off. Try it now. Qualia Senolytic is also available at select GNC locations near you. Take it. Just 2 days a month. There's a link in the description. Who don't want to feel 15 years younger and get rid of them zombie cells? Now, if you're watching us anywhere other than Rumble, you're going to have to click the link in the description right now. That's why that banner's appearing at the bottom of the screen, to tell you that you've only got a matter of seconds left. And you are not going to want to miss this conversation. Let me tell you, we've got some fantastic stuff. I'm most excited to tell you about how Bill Gates is managing the free speech conversation, telling you that what you're discussing is crazy stuff. He knows better than you. We're seeing now that Telegram have changed their terms and conditions to allow them to give the government additional information. And we're watching a lovely Biden pro-Zelensky, pro-war speech. Click the link in the description. Awakening Wonders, thanks for joining me today for Stay Free with Russell Brand. We are in the midst of a censorship war. Old media and independent media vie for your attention and ultimately compete for your vote in a forthcoming election. But that's merely a metric measurement system. What's really at stake, of course, is the nature of reality itself. Who controls reality? I know that sounds like a grand ontological claim, but we're talking about who controls what you see and what you believe. What information do you gain access to, and what information are you denied access to? I'm looking at that Rumble chat and I can see you, Rafe87642. I'm looking at the Awaken Wonder chat on Locals, Lily Farm Girl, and all you guys. How's it going? I'm looking at T-Funk. I'm actually applauding your free speech and open communication in there, and that is not what you're going to get from Hillary. Is it Hillary Rodham Clinton? I've always found that middle name sort of slightly captivating. Hillary Rodham, I think it's Rodham, or is it Bill Rodham Clinton? In my mind, they've become some composite creature, the Clintons and the Obamas too. Some sort of human soup of glistening ideas, sort of a morass of interchangeable flesh with a grin within it. Speaking on behalf of deep state power, it's no coincidence that this conglomerate creature would look like a blob. Imagine the individuals dropped into this giddy morass of skin, reporting only what's you're capable of hearing, what's expedient for you to hear. Here's Hillary Clinton saying that social media companies need to be controlled. And it's not a surprise that she believes that, because as the campaign escalates, we've got Elon Musk on Tucker Carlson. There's a brilliant bit where he talks about, like, you know, if Trump don't win this election, how long am I going to jail for? And you've got Kamala Harris on 60 Minutes, which is, I believe, a CNN commodity, isn't it? I don't know which particular legacy media outfit owns 60 Minutes. But what I can tell you is that legacy media, which is centralized authority funded by corporate interests, and independent media, which of course has corporate interests, I'm not suggesting that Elon Musk isn't a billionaire, but it's pretty plain that he's an independent thinker, are vying with one another. Why would it be that Hillary Clinton is saying that social media companies need to be controlled? Because if social media companies were controlled, then you wouldn't have the spectacle or the phenomena of Elon Musk talking to Tucker Carlson on subjects like the southern border and immigration, on subjects like war. And you would only have access to the information that they want you to have access to. Here's Hillary Clinton saying that social media companies need to be controlled. And remember that companies like X and Rumble, where you're watching this right now, are banned in multiple countries. Is that to protect you, do you think? Or is it to control you? X and Rumble banned in Brazil, Rumble banned in France, Rumble banned in Russia. Who do you think benefits from that? Let me know in the chat. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll be with you for about another 12 minutes, simply because we want you to understand this offering. But you've got to know that YouTube is not what it once was. YouTube is currently itself a controlled space where the algorithm moves in accordance with globalist and corporate whims. You'll see that, obviously, by looking at your own feed, and you'll note that it is controlled information that you're granted access to. Let's have a look at Hillary Clinton.
We should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave, platforms on the internet.
I've always enjoyed that guy because, in fact, can we go PIP on the still that I just froze it on, Elaine, just for a second? Look at how he stares. Look at he's always absolutely astonished by the news. Like, I actually wonder if he might be coming over to our side, because oh man, is this really the news? Is this really the news? Now, already Hillary Clinton's talked about repealing a section, or was it 302? I can't remember what she said, but I know what it'll be about. It'll be about free speech. Let's watch the rest of it.
Platforms on the internet immunity, because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. But
it's brilliant, because what I remember is when they controlled it, because Twitter had been infiltrated by FBI, CIA and everything. They would always say, do you remember this? It's not that long ago. They'd go, Facebook's a private company. You can't tell private companies what to say. They said that stuff all the time. Now there is a couple of rogue platforms like Rumble. Oh, there we are. Like Rumble and like X. But now it's you can't have these organizations getting out there allowing people to speak freely. Remember, they want maximum privacy for the government, maximum transparency for you. It should be the other way round. The government should be transparent and we should be able to enjoy privacy. There shouldn't be the assumption that we move between being children and criminals. There shouldn't be the assumption that the state is empowered to replace God, a set of universal, unviolatable principles that they are in control of, that they can change. 1 minute, Facebook's a private company, leave them alone. The next minute, you can't have these rogue companies. That's because utility is everything, i.e. there's a plan, there's an agenda.
Is posted. But we now know that that was an overly simple view, that if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm.
Whoa! Real harm indeed. Well, over the course of the next hour, we're going to be looking at the nature of that harm. What's the significance of Kamala's appearance on 60 Minutes? How did she do? Benny Johnson, I know, said that she has thrown the whole election. The whole election has been thrown because of the way she's handled the conversation around her flip-flopping, the conversation around immigration, and of course, importantly, around war. Now, as for Hillary Clinton's remarks just then, let's go to this still image now, Elaine. We're going to go to a still image. Let's have a look at what Glenn Greenwald and Mike Benz have to say in response to Hillary Clinton's declaration that she requires the ability to censor. Western liberals united with neoliberal billionaires and intelligence agencies to manufacture fake disinformation industry, to manufacture a fake disinformation industry whose sole purpose was to radically expand and justify internet censorship. Dems, like Hillary and Tim Walz, were explicit about the goal, says our man. Here's Cenk over on, who's more from the left. Let's see what he's saying. Hillary Clinton just said on CNN, we lose total control if social media content is not regulated. Exactly. She's accidentally admitting the whole point of the attack on social media. Social media can't be contained and they're losing their grip on power. They hate it. So, that's the left and, not Glenn Greenwald's not a figure of light. Actually, go back to that, mate. I was reading that. That's the left and the right simultaneously agreeing that the censorship issue is out of control. In fact, go full screen now for me, mate, on the text. Elaine. Full screen on the text, mate. Can you do that? Thank you. Can you please? Thank you. I've been put here on God's green earth, sent from the future to tell you, look at Mike Benz, he's getting, to tell you what, this Christianity is cashing, to tell you this. The current consensus policy pivot of every major organ of the US State Department, which Hillary Clinton used to run, and state's program is specifically designed to achieve total control. Full screen on Russell now, please. Full screen. Thank you very much. So look at that. That's a variety of interesting and sort of somewhat diverse views. Everyone agreeing that the agenda is the same. Total social media control. Astonishing. This is a pivotal moment. Now, over the course of the next 40 minutes, we're going to look at Kamala on 60 Minutes. We're going to look at Elon Musk on Tucker. And we're going to show you how this election is going to shape reality. That's what we're going to be discussing. That's what we're going to be demonstrating. Before we get into that, let's have a quick word from one of our partners today. This is Tech that will provide you support and protection from electromagnetic fields as you travel through airports. Let's look at that now.
Journalists are supposed to believe in free. Journalists are supposed to believe in
Tech. So we're referring to a commercial there. Do you know what number it's on there, Elaine? Tell me yes and no verbally, my dear friend, because otherwise people will think I'm in this room on my own and that I've gone crazy. Did that go to output just then, that picture of your home screen? Don't put that on Outsprue. Let's not broadcast that, baby. So Elaine, do you know what button the commercials are on? Yes. All right, let's have a look at that commercial now. Oh. And I'm just noticing that we're seeing your home screen as part of the old output there. Yeah, we are going to see Ruby Seeking. We're going to be having a look at Kim Iverson a little bit later. Can you time code this moment for me, guys? Just because this will be something I'll be talking to Dave about a little later. So sort of about 10 minutes in. All right. So have you got the commercial yet, Elaine? Don't play it until I ask for it, but tell me when you've located it, if you don't mind. You've located it? Was that yes? Okay. So hold on. I'll cue it. Let's have a look at this from our partners. Go. No? So, forgive me, may I ask, did we trial this? Planes, a heavy EMF exposure.
So what happened? Why did it? Is my mic down? Can I just check?
Individual devices,
Lane,
and Wi-Fi within confined spaces. I think that's something. Yes, I
saw that. I saw that it went up, but it didn't go up when I cued it. It went up when you cued it.
To protect yourself if you're undertaking such travel from EMF. Imagine sitting on a commercial flight, every single person there smothered in Wi-Fi, Bluetooth earbuds, all that stuff. You might as well be in a fuselage made of electromagnetic energy. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention classifies airline crew members as radiation workers precisely because of this fact. Tech, as you know, probably, are an official partner of the UFC. They're the only scientifically validated EMF protection solution. Hang that little thing around your neck. It sups up those sweet little problems. AirTech uses EMF modulation technology that is trusted and used around the world. Go to airstech.com/pages/Russel-brand. Use code Russel30 for 30% off. That's code Russel30 for 30% off. Give yourself the advantages that these devices represent. Okay, so let's get into this. Thank you for that message for our partners, Airstech. If that's a product that will be useful to you, take advantage of it. Okay, guys, let's get into the main story today. This is what's really fascinating me, of course. Elaine, can you reassure me, mate, that when I see on my output screen your home screen, that's not going out in the stream? Can you reassure me of that? You're reassuring me, yeah? Thank you. It's just because on my monitor, I keep seeing your home screen. Guys, let me know in the comments, darlings, if you're seeing those home screen images streaming. In fact, you can let me know, Luke. Are those home screen images going out on the stream? Thanks very much. Okay, guys. So this is the story that we're covering most of all, is Elon Musk's appearance. So mark that time, because this is what I want to show later so that I can sort of demonstrate what our challenges are. All right. Thank you. All right. So here's this. I didn't know this happened because we're in Miami. We're in the middle of a mad hurricane. It's crazy and it's insane here. like, I don't think it's in particular going to affect Miami, as I understand. Let me know in the comments and chat. It's more going to be, sort of relevant to the dear good people of Tampa. You're getting a lot of love in the chat there, Elaine. People are like the Rumble viewers. I tell you this, these are a compassionate and loving group. No home screen images. That's not going out there, so it's just going out on my monitor. Fantastic. But I didn't know that Elon Musk had appeared on Tucker Carlson's show. The reason I'm fascinated by this is it's showing you how media, propaganda, messaging and social communication is changing. Some of the early examples of this were the Arab Spring, the Occupy movement, Brexit and Trump 2016. Now we're a lot further down that road, and in November we will see what form of campaigning is most successful. Starts off, let's have a look at Elon Musk reflecting on what he might personally incur in the event of a Kamala victory.
If he loses, man, what?
You're fucked, dude. I'm fucked. If he loses, I'm fucked.
It does seem that way. You can't just be like, yo,
yeah, I'm like, how long do you think my prison sentence is going to be? Do you think? Well, I see my children. I don't know.
Because it's not like you can say, well, yeah, I maxed out to him, but, you know, I have
no plausible deniability. No, and I've been trashing Kamala nonstop.
Oh, I know.
So there you go. It's a pretty light-hearted way to get into this conversation. But what power is being concealed and what power is being expressed as this campaign takes shape? Now, before we get into, start the countdown to leave YouTube, Elaine, now, please. Before we get into some of Elon's extraordinary theories, most notably that the reason celebrities are willing to support the Kamala campaign is because they know that if Trump gets into power, he will release the Epstein list, and Lord alone knows what will happen with the Diddy case in the event that Trump's in power. Before we get into that story, we're going to have to ask you, if you're watching us on YouTube, to click the link in the description. Join us on Rumble. Consider getting Rumble Premium. And remember, turn on your notification bell if you're watching this on YouTube. Otherwise, the algorithm will not direct you towards our content. Click that link. Oh, we're not live. Let's have a look. And is it live on Rumble? Yes. And it's live on YouTube? Hello, everyone. We're in Atlanta. And let me see these comments. Hey, Mikey, you can talk to me like I'm normal. Don't pretend that it's not a TV studio. Yes. Let's get the comments up so that I can see the comments rolling. And let's get the locals comments so I see them rolling.
This is locals, this is Rumble.
I see you, Beth Ann. Yeah. I see you, Sneaky Gemini. I see you, Carl Rhino. We are live on locals, but are we live on Rumble? We're just checking if we're live everywhere, everybody. Is someone watching this on Rumble? I think he's at a different location. Yeah, they can't see me on Rumble. We are now live on Rumble. Who's the?
Running here. It's running here.
Who's?
We're live here.
Nice one, Gareth. Hey, if you're Jeff Bookman, can you see us? Can T Funk? Are you can see us? Yeah, Gareth, you happy?
Are we live on Rumble? Yes, we're good. We've got Rumble.
I see you, strange IDE. Okay, so Manny, get ready. I'm about to start running clips in. I'm going to hear the audio nice and loud in my ear. Identify the button that turns up the audio. Identify it now, because probably my next question to you is going to be about that. Okay, well then that's something we're going to address next time that maybe we could have checked before we got out here. Right, listen. This is going to be like an extraordinary day, I can tell you that now. Remember, tonight we're going to be live streaming for the VP debates. We're going to be live streaming, so we're going to be moving this rig mobile. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the first election in Europe that's been won outright by a far-right party. You can talk about Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, or you can talk about the peculiar elections in Germany. But we're in an interesting inflection point in Austria, and I want to talk with you about what nationalism versus globalism means. I want to talk to you today about the subject of immigration. I want to talk to you about Elon Musk's claim that the Dems are importing voters. And I want to talk to you about the hypocrisy that surrounds the subject of free speech. Let me know in the chat what you guys think. Okay, first of all, though, an extraordinary claim from Hillary Clinton that she is the most investigated innocent person that you've ever met in your life. Let's have a look.
Entire life. And so, but I will tell you, it is not a pleasant experience.
Okay, and let's have a look at this. You've seen this already, I figure. This was on The View when Biden and Whoopi Goldberg mimed the execution of a bug Donald Trump.
Then he just wouldn't go. He was like a bug. He just kept being there. He was like a bug right there. So you felt...
I mean, in a sense, you can't condemn Joe Biden for things like that anymore. All right, guys, if you're happy that the text's good, then I'll move my priorities to what I'm doing here. I need to not be distracted. Well done. You're happy that things are working well. See you later, you lot. Thanks very much. All right, so let's have a look at our first sort of story that we're going to be talking about is the elections in Austria. What does it mean when it comes to sort of civil cohesion and peace between people of all races and religions? What does it mean about our ability to come together and oppose centralized corruption? I wonder if there's a version of nationalism that can be inclusive, a version of nationalism that recognizes that indigenous cultures of countries like Germany and Britain and Spain, the United States of America, although which indigenous culture, which layer of time is it that you want to revere, honor and assimilate to? While we enter into this conversation at depth, I think it's important that we have a good faith agreement between people of different cultures and communities that unless we're willing to come together against centralized power, we're not going to have the opportunity to even negotiate between one another about what a new France or a new Austria or a new America or a new UK even looks like. While we're lost and strewn in division, we'll end up ultimately playing into their hands. It's hardly original to say that divide and conquer has always been the modus operandi of the establishment in all of its incarnations. Let's have a look first, before we get into that story, at CNN's Scott Jennings. I've seen a lot of his comments lately, and he's making some interesting points, calling Tim Walz a buffoon ahead of tonight's debate that you can watch along with us live from Atlanta at 9 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. It's at 9 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, I figure. Thanks. Let's have a look at Scott Jennings on the subject of the debate.
Well, Walz is a buffoon. I'm sorry. This guy, he's the only school teacher in America who brags that none of his students can get into an Ivy League school.
I had 24 kids in my high school class, and none of them went to Yale.
He's had one consequential press interaction with our Dana Bash, who asked him about the fabrications in his own resume, and his answer was essentially, me no understand words good.
My wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar's not always correct, but again...
I mean, he's a buffoon. He's on a free ride for running under Harris. He gets very little press. They don't let him talk to the press for a reason. I want one thing out of this debate. I want J.D. Vance to go out there and get under his skin. He has legendary hot, short temper. A lot of governors do, but apparently he does. I want J.D. Vance to go out there and have him explain why he is denigrating J.D. Vance's story. Small-town America ends up making something better out of his life, which is something we should want for every kid.
Hey, welcome to those of you from Bongino's Army. Welcome to those of you that are watching us because Crowder is off this week. I hope you enjoyed the reporting he did last week on New York City COVID czars sex parties. They were pretty fantastic. You got a one-man healthcare oriented New York Diddy operating out of that place. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, we'll be with you for another 5 minutes, and then we'll be exclusively available on Rumble. Let's start today's main story. Our main story is about immigration and the various difficult challenges that it presents. The potential that immigration generates conflict between people and prevents the necessary unity required to oppose true globalism and its very real threat. We're starting with the victory in Austria of their far-right Freedom Party. Now, I imagine that the liberal and legacy media are condemning out of hand the rise of the far right in Austria. But over the course of this conversation, we'll be considering what the reasonable conversation around immigration looks like and sounds like. You let me know in the chat. Rumble community members like you, Buddy 1205, and you, Paco Pete, PNW, and you, Joshua Graham. Let me know what you think. Be honest and open. This is a free speech place. Hey, nerd far away. Yeah, I love Dave as well. Nice to see you guys in there. All right, so let's have a look at the events in Europe, and see how it relates to the forthcoming election in America. Elon Musk's claim that the Dems are importing voters. The as yet unverified claim that's being made about the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Department, saying that up to 13,000 illegal immigrants have been convicted of murder and released into the US. Is that a true story? Is that? Let's have a look at that and let's investigate that. But first, let's start with what's happening in Austria.
European countries, including Germany and the Netherlands, to see a jump in support for the far right.
The party has vowed to create what it calls a fortress against migrants. Chancellor Karl Nehammer's governing Conservatives came in second and have indicated they won't form a coalition with the Freedom Party under its current leader.
We have opened the door to a new era. Together, we are now going to write a new chapter in Austrian history.
Extraordinary, and I suppose whenever anyone mentions Austria and the far right, certain concerns will come to the forefront, but that doesn't mean that there can't be a conversation about immigration, which seems to be the issue on which the Freedom Party primarily campaigned. On the subject of immigration in the United States of America, Elon Musk had sources, let's call them. So Elon Musk says they're importing voters. It's obvious. With an election looming, the US is approving citizen applications at the fastest speed in years. Okay, so I wonder if that is in any way connected to what is customarily regarded as a form of election interference. Let's have a look at this piece of Fox News reporting on the rather more audacious claim that 13,000 convicted murderers have been released into the US. This is apparently a nice figure, but it's not been confirmed. You guys got the sound? Some people are saying that there's problems with the sound. You're across it? You know why it happened? Excellent. All right, let's have a look at this.
Well, a disturbing development on the border crisis. Wait until you hear this. The Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement confirms that more than 13,000 illegal immigrants convicted of murder have been caught at the border and then released into the United States.
So to set the stage here, let me just explain what these numbers mean. ICE has something called a non-detained docket. Essentially what that is it means migrants who were encountered by DHS but are no longer in federal custody. So who's on this non-detained docket? It's illegal immigrants who were caught and released at the border, released with the court date years away. They're in immigration proceedings, combined with illegal immigrants who have already been ordered, deported from the country by a judge, but are still here roaming the country. So keep that in mind. This non-detained docket. According to a letter that the acting director of ICE just sent to Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez, on ICE's non-detained docket, they're currently tracking 425,000 non-citizens who have been convicted of a crime. Of that number, over 13,000 non-citizens have convictions for homicide and are on the non-detained docket, meaning they're roaming the country right now. On top of that, there are another 15,811 non-citizens convicted of sexual assault who are roaming the country right now on ICE's non-detained docket. It doesn't stop there. Those are convictions. The ICE director also says there are currently just under 1,900 non-citizens on the non-detained docket who have pending homicide charges. who are roaming the country, and another 4,250 non-citizens who have pending sexual assault charges who are roaming the country on the non-detained docket. So people's eyes might be glazing over right now with all the numbers we just threw at you. Just to put it...
My eyes were glazing over a little bit, but I was also concerned that there are alarming numbers and alarming claims, and I was trying to understand what the time frame is. Is this in the last 24 months, 36 months? Is this in the last 10 years? Is this ever? It's pretty concerning, of course.
In a nutshell right here, what we've learned from the acting ICE director via this letter to Congressman Tony Gonzalez is right now there are over 13,000 illegal aliens convicted of homicide who are roaming the United States right now. There are another 15,811 illegal aliens roaming the country right now who have been convicted of sexual...
What I would say is, with any news reporting, sometimes the more innocuous language is an indicator of their editorialization. The use of the word roaming, for example, is to heighten fear. If those numbers are true, it is alarming. It is frightening. I suppose what we're trying to do on Rumble is bring together some complex and opposing ideas, people's concerns about immigration. Imagine if you had a referenda right now in this country, the United States of America, and in a way you're having a referenda on every single subject because you've got an election in a couple of months. It seems that the majority of people, or a significant number of people, I'd probably guess that it was a majority, would prefer net zero migration. Seems like the same thing is true in the UK. Based on the recent victory in Austria, the same is true there too. In France, it seems likely that people would prefer net zero migration rather than an ongoing and apparently unchecked system of migration. Does it mean, though, that if you have concerns about migration that you are racist? And what do you do about communities that have to coexist that are already in the country? I'm sure some of you are familiar with the number of deportations that took place in your country's history when it came to control of the southern border. And I wonder how you marry together the idea of harmony and cohesion among the citizenry with management of the borders. Later on this week, we'll be able to show you a conversation between myself and Colonel Douglas McGregor where we cover this issue. If you're watching us on YouTube, though, that's it. Let's start the countdown right now. Over the course of the show, we're going to be talking about Hillary Clinton's terrifying warning that there is going to be a surprise in October. We're going to be looking in depth at John Kerry's claim that the First Amendment is dangerous and that your free speech has to be controlled. But to see that conversation, you're going to have to click the link in the description on YouTube. Come on over to our home in Rumble to enjoy the rest of this story on the subject of migration and the Hillary Clinton story. See you over there now. Goodbye, YouTube. We're now off YouTube. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Stay on me. You were queued up on the clip throughout that. Okay, so that... Okay. All right, guys. So, listen. So let's carry on with this story now. I'm going to play out the rest of this clip.
Convicted of sexual assault.